things that really struck a chord with me because I was taught this over 20 years ago by one of my mentors. So just reading this quote had my attention, and then my commitment to read the book to the end. So you hooked me. Good job. I have to say, when starting off, I did struggle a little bit with this book. For various reasons though. One of them, I just came off reading some really motivational and inspirational books, which had me on a reading and learning high. Then when I started to read this book, I found it a little bit more functional and a little bit more tame in comparison, so it set me back initially. But in saying all that, overall the tools and the learnings are something I really do recommend for everyone, and to read and learn, as they were very helpful and practical and easy to follow. So overall, it was a great read. But as always, I'll let you decide for yourself if they are or aren't for you. But for me, I thought the book was overall very well written, had some great fundamentals, some great tools, and detailed very well. So with all that said, I'd like to recommend this book as part of your development journey. Hopefully, you get as much out of it as I did. One thing I'd like to point out though is, although these are my top 4, there was many other supporting tools and examples throughout the book. So it's worth reading the entire book, not just watching this video. But thanks for watching though, because there was some great ideas for habit change. So let's start off by having a quick review. My top 4 tools that I found out of this book were the most useful and give you a little bit of a taste of what's in the book. So the first learning was the plateau of latent potential. Look at this diagram. So what is it all about? Habits, and how habits and small habits make such a big difference. There is a common belief that people are looking for big changes or impacts that are seen by the world, and especially those that are close or around them constantly. During this learning, I discovered it was all about developing the ability to start with and the understanding of how small changes and your learning systems give you the ability to reach big changes you want and how to sustain them. The author spoke about the 1% change philosophy, and this was discussed a lot throughout the whole book. But it was one of the key achievements and fundamentals that was highlighted about habit change. He highlighted during this learning about how 1% gains towards the changes you want or you desire will inherently start you forming those habits and really guide you to start making those small changes to ultimately lead you to a successful implementation and generate your long-term habits. That by taking these very small crucial steps towards the change, you will in fact create those long-term habits again and the changes you want. It really, for me, it broke down into this, that take a little step and then another and then another and another. By repeating the process over and over again, you will make it natural forming habit, not a forced habit. One of the examples that he did demonstrate was that within 12 months of obtaining and performing these 1% gains, they do add up to a 37% on average improvement for all of your habits. So for me, I think about this and I go, well, 1%, can I give up 1%? Can I change that 1%? Hell yeah. Why not? Really, how much is 1%? It's such a small portion of your life, so why not try it? Give it a go. There is some challenges though. That part of it is the no-brainer, but sustaining it is a little bit more difficult. So the next 3 key learnings support that journey. The second learning that I took on board was the 3 layers of behavior change. He used this diagram to explain it. There is 3 layers in which behaviors change, and we discuss here how often the 3 layers of behavioral change. The author used this diagram to explain that there is 3 layers. And what we need to do is, rather than looking at the outcome, we need to focus on the journey on how to get there. He highlights that you need to implement this behavioral system and really look at your identity, which is in the center, then move towards the outside, heading into processes or systems that manage your behavior, then end up on the outcome. Typically, most people look at the outcome and then try and change those behaviors in the reverse direction. Now, this is really difficult, but when you start to think of it in a different way and look from your inside out, I think it makes sense, and it's something that I am trying to do. For me, it was really closely related to the previous learning with the 1% changes and how early and repetitive exposures have shaped our lives. So we need to alter our inner self rather than focusing on the outcomes. And I think this was the most important part for me. Focusing, going back to the beginning and what my beliefs were and what those already habits that are formed and where they've come from, so I can understand how to change them. The third learning was the habit loop. The habit loop was all about these 4 quadrants. So it was based around Q, which is the trigger, the craving, the need, the response, what happens, the actions, and then reward, how you feel. The author explained by using this method as part of your system and as part of your behavioral changes, you can use this system to manage and create your habits by creating satisfying feedback loop. It explained that unless you're satisfied your habit loop and how you react and your ability to meet your biological and mental needs, if they're not met, therefore you won't want to be able to do it and you won't do it. The ability to sustain the habit becomes a challenge and too difficult to achieve. I really found this an important learning. As I really highlighted to me, we as people do have to have inherent needs, and we also have the need to solve problems. If those opportunities to solve those problems are taken away from us, we don't get the satisfaction and we don't meet the 4 quadrants. So therefore, we don't satisfy our behavioral needs. And I think as part of our nature, if we remove these abilities to solve the problems, the habits don't form. And regardless of our needs and our wants and expectations. So we need to go down this journey, whether it be painful or not. Lastly, the 4th learning. This was about the 4 laws of behavioral change. And this was the highlight. These laws really helped me to explore what are good and bad habits, how to identify and how to change. The 4 laws for good and bad behaviour. These tools enable you to change and make good habits by considering these key laws when starting your systems for habits. According to the author, James Clear, you need to consider both your good and your bad. And you need to use this tool to identify where those habits currently lie. He explained that for the good habits, you first need to break it down into the 4 steps. First, make it obvious. For me, this was all about making it visual and physical. Secondly, making it attractive. This is the really challenging step, but he had some great tools in there how to make this happen. So as you read, you'll find them and work through them in your own pace. But he really did provide a lot of options. So thank you, James. Thirdly, making it easy. This is my favorite, as I'm all about making it easier for myself and those around me. So count me in. Again, there were some tips, some ideas, and some tools on how to make this work and how to achieve. Lastly, make it satisfying. Again, can't harp on this one enough. If you don't make it satisfying, you don't get that achievement, the likelihood is you're not going to create a habit. And this is pretty understandable. As humans, without achievement, we wouldn't have started in the beginning. He then went on to explain how to start breaking down your old and bad habits. He again listed 4 laws for these. Firstly, make it invisible. This was all about reducing your exposure and removing the cues or those triggers that trigger your habits in your current environment. The second law was make it unattractive. Here we learned about how to use negative actions to drive you and continue or performing these habits. So it was really about making it unpleasant and making it really that you don't want to do it. And that triggered into the third law, which was make it difficult. This is one of the easier processes, but also a key, because if you make it difficult and make it challenging, you're less likely to achieve it and less likely you want to do it. So by making it harder, we take the path of least resistance. Well, I know I do. Well, most of the time anyway. And lastly, making it unsatisfying. For me, this went hand in hand with the previous law. As we know by now, we do not receive some sort of satisfaction or response. Our natural response is to not want to do it again. Well, those were my top 4. There was many other tools within the book. Things like habit stacking, where basically it's about putting things together to make you drive those top 4 that we talked about previously. And it was just about bringing things together to really make it so you had positives and negatives. Temptation bundling, similar sort of concept. The habit line, again, it's just about setting yourself goals and processes. 2-minute rules, breaking your habits down into very small intervals. Habit contracts, working with someone else. Going to the gym, asking someone to come with you, and then setting the focus and driving each other. That's tied into accountability partners. Again, it's about keeping yourself and others accountable. And then there was gaining mastery. So that was just an overall. But I'll leave all of those for you to explore as you bring atomic habits. Enjoy your journey on learning how to change your habits into the future. I hope you enjoyed. That was my review on the fundamentals that impacted me. What I thought were, whilst I realise everyone is different, some will get more, some will get less. But these were the greatest influences for me. Lastly, I do highly recommend this book, as I think it does start you on a journey of looking at where you are, come from, how much fun reading a little bit more, doing a little bit more work, and getting a little bit more achieved. And this 1% will make a difference in getting to that height. So if you're interested in purchasing this book, check out my description below and look for the link to the hardcover so you can actually purchase it. I hope you enjoyed. Please leave us some feedback and suggestions for the next book you would like to read. I will be looking at this book this time so look out for my next release, which will be in a fortnight. Don't forget to smash the like button and the subscribe buttons to keep up to date with all my upcoming videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Till then, keep reading. See you next time.